Namaste. This is Vishwa at Vishwa Yoga. Today I will talk about some of the main practices of Tantra. You cannot understand Tantra by reading or listening, but only through practice you receive Tantra. Tantra is all about practice and experience, and once someone had an experience, no philosophy is needed to explain it further. Many of my friends and students asked me to share the knowledge I have, and many of these practices I teach to my students. So I decided to share some of the main practices on a very high level for clarity and understanding. These practices are from both right hand path and the left hand path. But for simplicity, I have divided all these practices in 4 different categories: common practices, yogic practices, sexual practices, and power practices. So on a high level, the first 2 categories are part of the right hand path, and many of the practices on the other 2 categories are part of the left hand path. Some of the practices fall on the middle path, which I will talk about as I go along. But the truth is, all these categories has been completely misunderstood by most of the people, and hence the word Tantra got a negative impression. For many Hindus, common practices are part of their daily life, but most of them are unaware of the fact that these practices are part of Tantra. For example, puja, deity worship, temple and festival rituals are part of Tantra. And most yogis practicing popular asana think that they are doing classical yoga practice, but in reality they are practicing Tantric Hatha Yoga. On the other hand, most Westerners and people searching about Tantra on the internet think that the sexual practices are Tantra. And most Indians think that those power practices, especially some of the unusual and controversial ones, are Tantra. But the truth is, all these practices are part of Tantra, but each category has different expression. In Tantra, every act of our life can be treated like a ritual. But how simple and elaborate it will be, it is individual's choice. So I am going to take one category at a time and talk about it. I will take 5 to 7 important practices in each area just to give you an idea, as it is beyond the scope of this video to cover all the practices. So first I will cover the common practices of Tantra. These practices can be called the foundational practices. And as I mentioned before, they are part of the daily life for many people, especially the Hindus, but most of them are unaware of it. And if you pay close attention, some of these ritualistic practices exist in other religious traditions as well. So for simplicity, I have divided these common practices into 4 different categories: spiritual and religious, rules and customs, general well-being, and other supporting practices. Please keep in mind that this division I have done for explanation purposes only. All these practices intermingle as and when needed. So in the spiritual and religious section, the foremost important ritual of Tantra is initiation or Diksha. In this ritual, a qualified teacher or master called Guru formally initiates a student in his or her tradition. Then purification of the body, mind, environment, and objects used in the ritual is very important in any practice. Using the sacred sound called a mantra, the process is initiated, and a yantra or magical diagram is drawn or used. But in its absence, our body is used as yantra for the ritual. These steps create the foundation for worship called puja. The puja practice has many different steps and rituals that vary based on the type of puja. In puja practice, through invocation or avahan, using mantra, a deity is invoked from formless to a form. Followed by additional rituals includes many offerings, like you offer things to a guest in your house, such as water, food, etc. But the fire offering or homa is considered as the most important and purest form of offering. The worship is done with great devotion and reverence, and as per the prescribed steps of the ritual. Once the ritual is over, through dissolution or Visarjan process, the deity is requested to return to formless, and objects of rituals are dissolved back to the nature. The practices of donations and going to pilgrimage are well known and common to other traditions as well. The same puja ritual applies to other categories, but with different expression. For example, in yogic practices, you invoke Shiva and Shakti within yourself. And in sexual practices, man is worshipped as Shiva and woman as Shakti. Next, about rules and customs. There are specialized rules and customs for public festivals, individual duties in society, as well as for atonement. There are also rules for music, dance, and how to have fruitful and blissful living. There are rules and customs for consecrating temples and deities. There are many rituals and customs for sacramental rites called sanskara. And the sanskara ritual is performed at every major stage in life from birth to death. In the area of general well-being, many practices emphasize health, lifestyle, and overall well-being. It includes the use of Ayurveda as ancient medicinal system based on nature, guiding about food, cooking, herbs, massage, preventive care, and cure. The practices of Jyotish based on astrology provide auspicious time to do an important activity for our success and well-being. The practices of Vastu deals with construction of house, office, or any building so that it will be conducive to our health and well-being. There are practices performed for self-protection, family, and environment using special fire rituals or offerings. There are guidelines on the crystals, gemstones, metals, minerals, suggesting as how they can be beneficial for our greater good. There are many alchemy and healing practices used for the same goal. Just to name some of the supporting practices, it is important to mention that these practices, which I just mentioned here, are only a small list of the practices. For example, in puja, you can have half dozen to 3 dozen small additional rituals, depending on if you choose to keep it simple or elaborate. It may include different objects and additional rituals based on the variation. It also includes different purification processes and customs of do's and don'ts. So I hope this gives you an idea about the common practices and rituals used in Tantra. Some of these practices are borrowed in other categories as well, with some variations depending on the type of the practice. In my next video, I will talk about yogic practices of Tantra. It is also called Tantra Yoga practices. So if you have any questions, comments, or need guidance, please feel free to contact me. I'm a certified Tantra educator and Tantra yoga teacher. I will be happy to guide you on this path. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the information, please subscribe, like, and share so that everyone else can also enjoy this.